things going. And it just started storming out. So let's hope that cooperates with us. I was outside before and there was like 5 hawks outside and they were just like squawking or whatever that noise is they make. And it's like kind of terrifying. Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, okay, you guys can just calm down over there. And they're like flying by my window because I'm so high up and it's, I don't know, they were after something. I don't know what they were.
Oh, it's a message, Jen.
I know something's happening.
This is so weird because I'm just starting to write an article about bird augury, about times and birds.
That's awesome. Look at, they're coming to visit. I'm just trying to Instagram's me. Instagram. Oh, I'm hearing thunder. Okay. Cool.
We had a massive storm in Memphis last night.
Did you?
Yeah, trees are down, over 100,000 without power.
Oh my gosh, like a really big one.
Yeah, big storm. My mother's coming over later because she has no power.
Oh, no.
They're saying it could be days before it's restored.
Oh, wow.
It's a nightmare. But we have power here, as you can see.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, well, Instagram's being stupid, so we're going to just ignore it. We're going to forget about that right now because it's not playing nice. Maybe it'll pop on, maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so hello, anyone who's hanging out. If you're here, let me know. Say hello and all that good stuff. We have Nancy and Stacey here today. We are talking about their current Kickstarter, the Ancestral Divination Magic. Wait, what is it? Ancestral
Magic Divination Kit.
Yeah. You know, I wrote it down and everything, and like my brain is just like, forget it.
It's a long name. We call it the AMDK.
Oh, see, I like that. And it's like it's so much stuff going on in it too, and I love it. It's like literally like it. I mean, a kit. Obviously, we know that's what it is, but it's like you could just like take off with this thing for months, and like that.
I think Jen's storm hit.
I think so.
Whoa.
That's wild if we're coming from Jen's power central, but we're clear and she's not. That's crazy. It's managing to get us through, but not the hostess.
Well, Stacey.
Yeah.
I drew cards for all 3 of us this morning. So since Jen is still in limbo somewhere, do you want me to tell you your card?
Of course.
Okay. I drew, and it's kind of funny, but okay, I drew the outlaw for you.
Nice.
Oh, this is really weird since we just said it. I drew your magic today and I got bird.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know. So we're just talking about the hawks and the bird. You see hawks here a lot. They fly the rim of the canyons looking for breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if we're actually live. The thing says we're live. Shall we just chat about our kit?
Yeah, I think we're live. I hope Jen comes back. Goodness.
Okay, what I can find out. I can find out if we're live. Can you wait?
Yeah, sure.
Hang on. Erica, are we live?
That's hilarious. I have never seen this happen before. Our hostess is gone.
You know what? It says live, so let's talk about it.
Okay, well, Jen Sankey fans, here we are. I'm Stacey Williams-Ung. This is Nancy Hendrickson, and we have a live Kickstarter that Jen is going to interview us about, and it's called the Ancestral Magick Divination Kit. And Nancy was the author, and I was the illustrator. I don't know if that should be past tense or not, but we've mostly finished the work, so I guess it's past tense.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Now, our person in the other room said she cannot find this, so it's very possible that I'm going to get on my phone really quick to see if we actually are live. This is just so freaky.
Well, Well, I'll just keep talking because I'm going to assume there's somebody out there in the internet who's watching this. So
Okay.
let's
good
keep it good.
idea. Okay.
So that's my job. The idea here with the product is to have a kit for accessing ancestral spirits. And Nancy here wrote 2 books about ancestral magic and divination. Nancy's been doing tarot probably almost as long as I've been alive. And the first book was Ancestral Tarot, and the second book was Ancestral Grimoire, both of which are excellent. I highly recommend those. They're wonderful. And before I met Nancy, I was lucky enough to read those books and just be a user like anybody else, or a reader, I should say, just trying to use the methodologies in there because I'm really a big fan of working with ancestral spirits. And this was a cathartic thing that really got me through it. So to be able to be her illustrator has been really special for me. And that's basically the basic theme of what we're doing. And so I have a company called La Panthère Studios. It's French for the panther. And Nancy approached me and said, how would you feel about publishing this kit? Not this deck. We were talking about it as a deck originally, as an oracle deck, but now it's so much more than that. It is essentially an oracle deck, sort of. It's 2 piles of cards. So we'll get into that, hopefully, if we get Jen back. It's a pendulum.
And we are not live.
We're not.
No, so no.
Oh, well, that was good practice.
That was good practice. So I'm going to get off here.
Yeah, let's get out and try again.
Hopefully we'll hear from Jen because I looked and there's no text from her.
Okay.
So my guess is her storm hit. Okay, hang on just a second. I'm trying. I can see I have to take my glasses off. 9:14. Oh, okay. I can now see. Okay.
Here I am.
Jen!
I'm back. I'm back. Everything. No, it's going crazy. And I was like, all right, cool. So hello. Hello, everybody. I don't know where anyone's at right now. I see people on. Hi, people. I don't know. I knew it once that rain started. I was like,
Well, just so you know, we were here the whole time. And
were you really? Oh my God, that's amazing.
But here's the thing. We don't know if people heard. I went ahead and described the product, kind of began to, and gave some background, but I don't know if anybody heard it. So if folks in the chat could tell us if you even heard me or if you'd like us to start over, you let us know.
Yeah, no, I think they did actually because it is.
Hey.
I love it.
Awesome.
Okay.
This is why it's so good to have people who are just really chill and they're like, all right, we got this. We can do this.
So, hey, Jane, I drew cards for the 3 of us.
Oh, yes, let's see.
And you missed that Stacey is the outlaw today. And Jen, you are the trickster.
Oh my God!
So
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Now,
so did everybody introduce themselves? Like, did we do that?
I introduced Nancy, and I haven't really introduced myself much except to say that I was the illustrator.
Okay, well, why don't you do that?
Okay, so Stacey Williams Ung, and I mentioned that I started a publishing company called La Panthère Studio. So I hope that you guys go follow that on Instagram. We are an indie publishing shop, and basically it was born of the decks that I published entirely independently, and hence the term indie. But I thought it would be nice to create a publishing house that is kind of, it's small, but the decks are still effectively owned by their makers. So I could go into that, but that's who I am. And the decks that I've created are the Southern Gothic Oracle and the Southern Botanic Oracle, which kind of go together. I mean, they're separate products, but they work really nicely together. They're thematically similar. And then the third one is Roses, Dust, and Ashes, which is based on cemetery symbolism.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, thanks.
I can't wait for that. That's so cool because that's
So that's us.
That's where I like to hang out.
Yeah, so I'm Nancy Hendrickson, author of Ancestral Tarot and Ancestral Grimoire, and about 15 other books that I won't even talk about it because they started with astronomy, not astrology, telescopes. Those were my first two books because I've always been in love with the stars. Um, you know, I've never done a deck before, so doing it with Stacey has been a just incredible privilege because I love her art, I love her vision, and when I tried to stray, Stacey would drag me right back to, what is our goal? We need to stick with what we said we're creating. It's just so it was very good for me because I do have a tendency to just go hither and yon.
I know how that goes. That's like one of those things, like we just almost can't help ourselves
Yeah.
because there's just so many things. And we're all, you like, even as I'm like sitting here, even writing my book, and I'm like, oh, what about if I made a book about, no, I have to do this. And it's like,
Exactly.
I did,
Exactly.
Oh my God.
It's a sign of genius. It means your brain has a lot of things in it.
So, yeah, there's so much. And it's one of those things, like that's almost the hardest part is keeping yourself like focused on the thing.
As writing the book for the Ancestral Magic, I finished it and then something happened and more stuff came in. And so I took it back and did more stuff. And then as we're hearing how people, beta testers, use it, now I'm going to have to go back and write more stuff. So it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
I can't tell you how many emails I have from Nancy that say, no, but this is the final.
I know.
this is the final.
It's
like, no, it's not. Final. Yeah, until I've sent it to the printer, it's not final. I know you're going to give me another one. Yeah.
I know.
No, it is. And it's nice to know we have, we do need those people that keep us in line. And, it's also too, it always seems like it works out good too, because like, even with my artist, like she keeps me in line with certain things. I keep her in line with certain things. So then it works out, and it helps.
Totally.
It definitely is something that, when you're working with somebody else on a project like that, it does help. And it's also good too, when you're just doing stuff on your own, to have somebody like, oh, hey, how's that going? And it's like, what? Leave me alone.
I know everybody watching right now is looking at my incredibly messy studio going, that's the lady that kept you in line? Yeah. But this was not the background I intended. So here's some authenticity for everyone. This is my studio.
You know what? This is real life, and it's totally fine. And Caroline is on, and she's saying hello to all of us. So, she's like, Stacey, you have a little bit of an echo. But
sorry.
I don't really know that. I wonder if I turn your mic down a little. If there's much we can do about that, it's fine.
It's probably the headphones. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I turned the mic down a little bit. That seemed to help. So I think we're fine. I'm not really too worried about it, honestly. So it'll be okay. So what I wanted to do too, real quick, is go ahead and I wanted to share your Kickstarter page, and we can just kind of talk about it a little bit. And so I'm gonna throw that up there. Can you guys see it?
Have as much of the product as I can show you too. So
I
can do visuals, and Nancy does
we'll
too.
do that too. Yeah, definitely, because and I want to kind of show everybody what it looks like. So when they go on the Kickstarter, there's a little bit more. We'll make it a little bigger. Can you guys see it?
Tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah.
All right. It was big before, and now it's not. I give up today. Anyway, that's fine. But it's just so everybody knows what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. This is my Kickstarter page, as you see, I already pledged. So this is where you want to go. There's a lot of people I noticed too that really haven't used Kickstarter before. So they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. If you just go and you just put the Ancestral Magick Divination Kit in the search bar, it'll pop right up for you. And then you can just go on the right and it tells you, and you can pledge, you can add on all the stuff that you want to add on, but you can also do that on the end too, right when everything ends, you can add stuff on too. So if you're going through it and you see, Nancy or Stacey put something up and you're like, oh, what's that? you can always add it on after. So definitely
Yeah.
know that, there's always a chance to add stuff on. So you can do that. And, if you can message them on here if you have any questions. There's updates on there once you pledge and everything that'll come up. So just for people who don't particularly know like what goes on with the Kickstarter, but I'd love to see some of the goodies. Like, I want to see them. See what you have.
Okay, well, Nancy, why don't you do us the talking if I've got an echo? But I'll hold stuff up.
Okay, I'm not hearing your echo, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are 44 cards right now. They're going to be 46, right? They're 44 right now.
I love it.
Half of the deck are spirit cards, and those are ancestral archetypes. So you will find like the seeker, the adventurer, the storyteller, the creator, etc. And you might notice a few familiar faces because our friend Matt Oren agreed to be the magician.
I know, I love that. I love that. He's the best. I freaking love him.
He's the best. And there are 22 of these, and these are the spirit cards. And then we have 22 acts of Matt. There's Matt. And then we have 22 acts of magic. And they have the burgundy brownish backs. And so what we chose were the 22 types of magic we felt were kind of the most were the broadest that most people would do. So you can use the decks individually or together.
Mm-hmm.
And like a really easy way to get started with the deck is simply what is my magic? Who am I within my magical family line? Because I know we all come from magical people or we wouldn't be here.
Right.
That's just a really simple way to get started. And Stacey can talk more about other components in the kit, but I think we did reach the stretch goal that we're adding 2 blank cards. There's the birds. There's Stacey's cards for today.
Well, don't move on yet because I think this is really juicy. So
okay, go ahead.
I love this. We're used to it, Nancy, but I think for the people watching this, I want to really dig in. So Nancy was saying when we first got on the call that she drew cards for all of us, and these are the 2 that she drew for me. So they're in 2 different decks, right? So this is the spirit card, the outlaw, and then this is the act of magic for me today, which is bird magic, which was pretty cool because we were talking about birds and then Jen disappeared and it got really weird. It was really weird.
See, I know. What's going? Like their
magic was like, yeah, bitches, you're going offline. But anyway, so that happened exactly, and then she was the trickster. So yeah, it's crazy. So
she was the trickster.
But one thing I want to say about these is that I'm really, first of all, I love that I got the Outlaw card because it's one of my favorites, because this is like my pet card, because I discovered her. This is Laura Bullion, and she's buried in the cemetery across the street from my house. And this was her mugshot when she was arrested for train robbery in St. Louis. So she has a great story. So she's like a real outlaw, and she's like totally on my spirit team. I've brought her all these offerings because I totally adore her and her story. But so I put her in the deck. That was my gift to her. But she's cool as hell. You gotta Google this person.
I want to know more about her now. That's
oh my God, I could go on and on. Nancy found her on Find a Grave, the website Find a Grave. Whole life story of Laura Bullion. Totally awesome. Anyway, so but it brings me to a more salient point. You don't have to know who all these people are, but what I want everyone to know is that none of it is artificial intelligence. It's all
none of it.
Yeah, none of it's fake. Isn't that wild?
It's crazy.
I know. What am I even doing?
How did you do that?
I know. So these are photographs that are of real people, and if not with permission, it's because they were in the public domain. So we didn't steal from anybody. We didn't fake anything. Everything here was like very authentically chosen and put in front of you for a reason, for symbolic archetypal reasons, not because we thought it was cool. I mean, sometimes it was because I thought it was cool, but it was because she really fit what we were trying to say about an outlaw, right? So it was a really wonderful process to go through all of that.
No, I love that. I love that. So Nancy, how did you guys come up with this idea? Like, how did this all come about?
You know what, Jen? I knew, well, I've been doing tarot for like 40 years. So I'm really used to working with archetypes. And as if you do ancestral tarot, you're going to look at the 16 court cards as basically who the ancestors were. And I thought that has to translate to more global archetypes. And that's what started the whole archetypal thing going, is that I know that we have ancestors who, as I said, they wore a certain cloak. And the cloak were the things they believed, how they treated people, who they were in their daily life. And they become archetypal over time. I mean, if you think, I mean, I can think about my own grandmother, who I would say would be the teacher, or who was my grandfather, who. So we, most of us don't know our family back very many generations. So this deck gives us this chance to say, okay, what ancestor wants to work with me today? Well, actually, I happen to draw the traditionalist. So the traditionalist is this beautiful card
Oh,
of a tea ceremony,
oh, I love.
and which is so beautiful. And Jen, it's so opposite your trickster. Uh,
It is too.
so that's how the archetypes came about. And then because I know that there were magical people in our bloodlines, what magic did they practice? So that's how the Acts of Magic deck came about.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So Stacey, what about the pendulum board? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I don't unfortunately have a big sample of that to show you in terms of how the life size, right? But it'll be about as big as like a checkerboard, or any other board game board. And it's going to fold like a board game board. So it's rigid and it's foldable so you can store it. But it's big, which is what's going to be so cool about it. And what I can show you is I printed, it's going to be two-sided. So I printed these postcard size samples just so we could all talk about it, right? But I had a lot of fun making these. So basically, imagine this is huge. Imagine I have huge hands. No, but basically, like any spirit board, you have your yes, no, and so on. And if you're familiar with using a pendulum, do I have one nearby? I feel like I just had my pendulum out earlier today. Maybe I don't. But when you're hanging a pendulum over the board, right, and it will veer toward one of your answers. And so the whole idea of designing something like this is to create these areas of real estate. It's not just that you swing it all over the whole board. You use different areas for different purposes. So what you might be able to see here, it's hard to get the camera to focus, but that's male and female. Okay. So you could ask the spirit you're working with, are you male or female? How do you identify yourself? And you can say, are you related to me or not? Those kinds of things. And you have a yes, no, you have a maybe. And then what you have in the center are two different semicircles. And these two different semicircles represent cultures, more or less geographically, rather than doing like 7 continents, which isn't very specific because so many places are multicultural, multiracial. Yeah, it's more like, it's more like Celtic, Anglo-Celtic versus European versus Polynesian versus East Asian versus, right? And so we tried to be as thorough as possible with like big categories of culture. And then over here, we have periods of time. So instead of doing every 100 years all the way back to caveman times, we basically lumped them in to things like, prehistoric, colonial, etc. And so basically you can start to get clues as to their gender, their time period, and all that is just on one side.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, and I like that too, because a lot of people, and I know Nancy knows, is they dive into this ancestral work and they get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then they just quit. They're like, okay, this is too much. I don't know what to do. So I love that it helps to kind of just like narrow it down. Like, we're going to start here. This is what you need. And then you can kind of take off from there.
Well, here's a big thought that I didn't know until I started working with Nancy's system. I always thought working with ancestral spirits was basically saying a prayer, lighting a candle to my grandmother, to my to a deity. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but philosophically, I'm learning more that there may be a spirit already in the room that is trying to work with you, and you're over here trying to get in touch with a grandmother you were really fond of, but she may not be in a place in the great beyond where she wants to talk to you. She may not be coming through. And so by using Nancy's method, you're more open-minded by saying, who is here wanting to help me today? And then get them to identify themselves, this blew my mind when I first heard that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, let me just say about the pendulum board. I do a small group on Facebook it's closed right now, but it's working with Ancestral Grimoire. And there are people on there who are using these techniques to identify gender, place, culture, time period. And they can work with that one ancestor for a huge period of time, because once you nail down those basics, oh my God, stuff just starts bubbling up. And then using the pendulum, were you a witch? Were you a spell weaver? Were you the pendulum board. I just can't say good enough stuff about. It's just so amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I'm playing with the messages, putting the messages up, because you guys
I
see
love
them?
seeing them. Yeah,
all right,
really
good. All right, yeah. I was like, oh hey, look, I can do this.
Thanks, Caroline.
So don't mind me. I am listening. No, and I love the fact too that you again, it's just about narrowing it down, but then making it more accessible. And I like, Stacey, that you mentioned too about it kind of helps you release the expectation of who you're working with or who you want to work with, right?
Yeah.
And so Nancy, can you talk about that a little bit, just about kind of how to approach working with your ancestors?
Sure. Jen, I never sit down and say, Grandma, I want to talk to you, because I always feel like spirit always has their own path, and I'm not going to pull somebody off their path. I'm here, and this is an example. I will say, I really need to work with an ancestor who is a healer, because I have some healing issues and I really want to heal her.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, as I drew the cards, I drew a card and I knew instantly it was one of my aunts who actually was a doctor. And it was like, okay, that's freaky. Yeah, I mean, that stuff happens though all the time. And the more you work with these cards, it's like, oh my God, this is, again, I've said it 20 times, spookily accurate. And so I will have a specific issue and say, I really need somebody who is super good at finance, health, travel, please, somebody come through can help me with this, who was good in your own lifetime. And then I will also add the magical component is, once I know that person, what kind of magic did you practice? What do you think will help me? So it's really a calling in somebody who can help, and then be open to who comes.
Yeah, that's important too. And I think, and I love that approach to it, because even like Stacey said, like most people are just like, all right, well, I light a candle to grandma and this and that and see what happens, so I love that. You're just like, all right, whoever's there, come help me. Now, what about people who are a little nervous about that? What if they're like, well, what if I call I need some mechanical help, and my Uncle Joe comes through, and I didn't like my Uncle Joe. So like, what can you say to people that are a little worried about that?
No problem. Number one, and maybe this is just because of my years of doing the work, I'm always protected by spirit. So I don't let anyone of a lower entity into my space. That's number one. Number two, you don't have to work with anybody that you don't want to work with. Right. So let's say you had some kind of abusive relationship and that person wants to come back in. It's like, hell no.
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Or if you're descended from Confederates and slave owners, as I am, I'm definitely, I'm a Southerner.
No, thank you. But, and that's what's important too, is to remember that you're always in charge, and I think people people, they watch too many movies, and that tends to get in the way with most magical things because the movies make it so crazy. But I think that's important too, to remember as you're doing this, you're fully in charge, and you can accept or deny whatever you want.
And I've told this story about working. I think I was writing Ancestral Tarot, and I was driving home one night, and 3 different entities jumped out in front of my car, and I hit the brakes, and I said, okay, no, nobody is allowed to ever do that again. You're going to get me into a wreck. No. And it's never happened since then. So just lay down your rules.
Yeah, no, for sure.
This is like me at the Hawthorne last year. So Jen and I both attended the Witch City Tarot Gathering. Are you coming again? Am I going to see you again in a month?
Oh, I'm a part of the board. I have to be there.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So forgive my ignorance not knowing that. Thank you. That's awesome. But when I went into the Hawthorne, which is a notoriously haunted hotel, this event is held in a historic, wonderful old hotel. I mean, it's just like when I go to New Orleans, walk right into that hotel room, and I just like set out the rules. Like it looks like I'm talking to no one, but I'm talking to everyone in the room. Yeah. Like, look, it is my time to be here now. I am the living person. I have paid through Monday night. So, but you can have it back. But through Monday night, this is my hotel. Do you understand? And I never have any trouble.
No, I do that actually. We just bought a house in Massachusetts that's 300 years old. And so it was built in 1715. And as of right now, I've counted 9 spirits in there. So as far as laying down the rule, I do the same thing. We always say hello when we come in, but I say, leave me alone in my bedroom and leave me alone in my bathroom. And don't be trying to freak me out in the middle of the night. I said, but besides that, fine. So really the most that they do is, it was an old tavern. And so at night, there's shit went down in this house. So it has ties to Underground Railroad as well. So the basement is there. Yeah, I haven't fully gone down there and whatever yet, because I'm dealing with everybody upstairs at this point. But at night, like at the end of the day when everyone's like drunk singing and that kind of thing. So I'll hear that at night. And that, and it's not too loud. It's just like loud enough. And Jay will wake me up and he's like, you hear it? I'm like, yes, I hear it. Cause he picks it up all the time too. And there's a little girl there named Millie. She's a bossy little thing. And she told Jay one night, like, it was too loud. And, so I thought that was kind of funny, but she has a little brother. I haven't really met him because he hides behind her the whole time. Like, he's very, very shy. But I did ask her how they died, and she said they died of the cough. So whether that's tuberculosis, who knows what the cough. So, because she's probably only like 8 or 9. So, so I mean, but it's so, again, that just going back to the ancestral work and just working with any sort of spirit or anything, it's laying down those rules, and that you can fully do that. And they do listen. Sometimes you get like
there's Millie's part. She's the innocent.
Oh, I love that.
And so that would probably for you be like, oh, that's the kids in the house, so it's like, I think that, we're all going to have our own bookmarks in these to who, like the way Nancy, when she drew something new, it was her aunt, the doctor. You're going to know it's Millie. I might know who it is. You know what I mean? I think we're all going to have bookmarks.
Bring it into the house. That's what I'm so excited about, too. And it's like, I'm like, I can't wait to get in there and just like, because I use like the spirit box. I don't have like a very good one. So it's a little, it's okay, but it works, but still it's really cool to see that. And I really want to just go actually get it and get down in the basement with it, because I really think that will be interesting, because we think we found where they snuck them out, because it's on a lake, and then there's like the river goes down, so it was in the house, so they would go put them in the basement.
That would make sense.
And out so that they can go down the river. So that, that was really interesting to me. And I recently actually found out too that I'm Puerto Rican. So, it's not, I found I have Nigerian. Yeah, like a nice chunk. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. So I'm kind of been diving into that a little and, trying to see how I can connect with those ancestors and just try to learn a little bit more about it, because I do know that they came obviously from the ports and came down to Puerto Rico and the slave and all that stuff. So, it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to kind of get into it and use that, because like you said with the card, I just think that is so cool. For sure. So there's another side to the pendulum board, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So so the other side, God, that was fascinating. I was like, tell me more.
The
other side is acts of magic. So just like the way the deck has two sides where it's talking about the things you do versus the people you might be interacting with, it's the same with the pendulum board. So this is the same way to get at the similar information. It has different kinds of, so folk magic, alchemical magic, and so on. And so you can use this to get at kind of the same information in a different way, because different people are going to have different ways of doing it. I will also say the deck doesn't come with charms, but charms work really well, or any kind of casting, stone casting or what have you, on this, because then you could maybe get a cluster if you were looking for a cluster.
Right.
So it depends on how you, that's why we call it a divination kit, because, different people, we want to take Nancy's knowledge from the book and basically give people these physical, tangible tools, whether it be the cards, the pendulum, the board. Runes is one of the add-ons in the Kickstarter. I don't work with runes. That's not part of my practice, but there are so many people who do, and that would be a really great way to
Yeah, well, and I do bones too, so I'm curious to do that with the pendulum board. That would be a really cool thing. So Nancy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book that comes along with this, and kind of what's in it and how it all came about for you?
And Stacey's right. The book will be finished. I've thought it was finished multiple times, but I'm still adding to it. I tell a little about my own history about, I have seen ghosts. I have seen people in other alternative universes. I have taken photos and seen spirit. So, living that life, how can you not believe in magic?
Right.
So tell a little bit about that. And then there's a description of each of the cards. And I tell kind of how I interpret the card. But, I say in the book, if you don't resonate with this, you go your own way. Because as Stacey said, if you draw, the healer, you might have that. For me, that card may be my aunt. So whatever comes up for you, you make it your own, make it your own. So I do tell about each one of the cards and about each one of the acts of magic. And then I also do talk briefly about using a pendulum and about calibrating a pendulum, because a lot of people pick a pendulum up and they never actually calibrate it. And so they never quite know what direction.
Right, it's just swinging around, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's swinging around." So, no, that's such an important point too, because I agree with that. I think people just kind of pick it up like, "Oh, okay," and they don't know.
And I do.
Yeah.
So what we are going to be adding to the book is, as people have beta tested, we're learning, lay out the spread and then throw charms. Throw dice if you want. If you're a dice person or a numerology number person, throw dice. Throw bones, throw stones. Because I used to read little stones for the 7 inner planets, and so I could read the astrology by tossing those stones. So I can toss those on these cards too. So, oh my God, there are so many ways to use these decks.
No, I love that. I love the number thing though. The dice is cool because everybody's so big about the numbers and repeating numbers and stuff like that. And it's almost like, hey, okay, so you kind of have an idea what ancestor you're working with, and you can even throw dice so that like what number do I know what, how do I know you're around? What number? And you might get 3, you might get 2. So, when you're seeing those repeated numbers, that ancestors by, right? Like that would be a cool thing to do too.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing too, that is, and I think I'm not going to say it because we haven't reached the stretch goal, but one thing that you may want to know is which was this your maternal side or your paternal side? Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting because in ancestral tarot and grimoire, I really talk about the patterns in each side of your family. And so the deck just supports that work. It's like if you see that your paternal line's really all effed up, maybe that's the one you want to start pulling cards for.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I think too is not being afraid to do that too, because like actually both sides of my family are pretty effed up. So it's definitely a process. And and I've read both your books and it is, there's got to be a couple good ones in there, so I think it's also like setting that intention to like, okay, whatever there had to be, right? There had to be,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm totally effed up. I mean, maybe a little bit, but there's something genetic that came down that was like, okay. So I think, also making sure to kind of leave some space for that and don't be afraid to dive into it. And I love that with the kit that you can go ahead and
live on the internet.
Hi!
There's my husband Ken, everybody.
Hi, Ken. So it's definitely there's just like like you guys were saying, so many
the whole room. We can see the whole room.
We see you.
Sorry, it's a working household, people.
That's okay.
It's totally fine. I'm actually surprised that my son's dog hasn't been down here because she's usually down here looking for me every 5 minutes. So
I'm just excited he had pants on. That's really important.
No, that's always a good, that means that you got to start your day though. Once the pants go on, you got to start your day. So, sometimes
I'm sorry, you guys.
That's okay. One thing that I think is important to remember, a couple things. Make the decks your own. I mean, honest to God, make them your own. Whatever I might have written, make it your own, number one. And number two, don't be afraid to come up with all kinds of different ways to use it. I mean, the people that have had it in their hands, they came up with stuff that neither Stacey nor I thought about. Mm-hmm. So, go for it.
Right. And I think it's it's a good tool, to kind of work your intuition and get it going. And especially if you just started, like what a great way to like really start honing that.
I think one of the keys to working with ancestors is to trust your intuition. I mean, really, it's not black and white. It's all shades of gray. Trust your intuition.
Right.
Well, and just from a design standpoint, it was my job to make this accessible to people. I actually just gave a speech I went to Summer Magic Fest down in Florida. It's this wonderful pagan festival in Orlando. And I was a speaker there. And one of the things I talked about was, from a creative's perspective, the difference between being interested in the occult and arcana, which is secret knowledge, dark knowledge, things, the hidden things. And then being a designer, and your whole job is to illuminate and not to obfuscate and to clarify things for people. But I'm doing it within occult knowledge. So it's like there's this whole interplay of light and dark. So what I think is interesting as a tarot reader myself is that when you go oracle, when you start making oracle cards, you are now working in just plain language, which is great not only for our potential buyers, the people, the alive people who are buying this, but it's also really great for the dead people we're making this for. Because when I think about like my Ozark granny, triple great grandmother, she might be more receptive to say playing cards or dice than all of these hocus pocus fun 2023 things that we're playing with, because she wouldn't even know how to communicate with me.
Right. Yeah.
She never saw a tarot deck in her life. And so if she's trying to come through for me and I'm holding up, the Queen of Cups, what if she can't communicate that way, right? So I think there's something really beautiful to be said about having really straightforward tools. If she sees what we're looking for, or if any ancestor from prehistoric times is really trying to get a message through, dice, simple cards, simple things that make sense, colors.
Right. No,
it's a big thought.
Important. It is a big,
Yeah.
it is a lot. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, too, when you're approaching it too and asking the questions, how Nancy, you know, was just doing for us before too, it makes it so much more accessible for both sides. You know, it isn't just this, like you said, this one-sided, we're throwing this, that, and the other. And, you know, way back when, like you said, they maybe had some playing cards, they had some dice, they might have just had sticks and stones or who knows.
Yeah.
But I feel like doing it and approaching it that way and kind of even just leaving the divination open to all sorts allows them to find that way that they can communicate best and most effectively with you too.
Yeah, and you know, don't be afraid to use other decks with this. So, like with Stacey, who lives in the South, use this deck. Use Stacey's Southern Gothic Oracle. Use a regional oracle or a tarot deck that's regional, because there are tarot decks for almost every culture that you can think of.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, once you've found the place, start using something that's complementary to it. I mean, just this is like level one. Start adding to it, adding layers.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, it'd be cool too is even just having the kit as like almost like in its own altar space and kind of just coming to it then you know your energy is focused and you know, and then like you said, adding elements that are regional. So, you know, maybe I know, you know, say I want to try to talk to a relative, a Nigerian relative. So maybe I'm going to get something from there and put it on there just to see if that's who I, you know, and if they're going to come through or not. I mean, they may or they may not or whatever, but just even to kind of focus it a little bit too, because, you know, there's more than one. So maybe, you know, whoever, or, you know, just adding a little bit of everything on there that is meaningful to you. And I think that helps too. And it kind of gets you in the headspace too. I like having kind of, you know, we all can't do that. Some of us, you know, we don't have the space to do that. But I think when you have it like that way too, it's there and you don't forget about it and you can make sure to spend some time there because, you know, working with your ancestors, you should do it regularly. You should make sure to, it isn't just like whenever you need something. So I think with this too, it also helps you to develop that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If it's an altar, you could bring offerings and you can make it more interactive.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like, to really work with them on, you know, regularly and all of that. And Nancy, do you have any tips for people who really want to start doing that, like working with their ancestors regularly?
Yeah, you know, I always start. I came to tarot as a healer, and I will be a healer the rest of my life. So, what needs healing? I mean, that's a really simple place to start. What in my life needs healing? Okay, then I can draw a card. What in my life needs healing? So, like right now, I just drew the achiever. Now, and so I would say, okay, why am I drawing this? How can this help me heal? Do I try and achieve too much, not enough? So, you know, that's an easy way to start working with the ancestors. Okay, what ancestor wants to help me with that? Okay. The healer. Oh, see, I drew the healer. These cards are, as I said, spookily accurate. So that's an easy way. What needs healing?
Yeah.
And go from there. And don't be afraid, you know, set up a good, like Stacey, set up the boundary, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Jen, I'm like you, don't touch me. Don't be around my house. Don't be in my house. You know, this is my space. Well, I have very clear boundaries.
Right. No, and I think too, you know, I mentioned before, people don't realize that they can do that. And I think even as, you know, tarot readers or divination or healers too, it's amazing to me how much time we spend giving people permission for things that they don't really need permission for, but they need to hear it from someone else, you know? And so I think that's really important to make sure to, you know, kind of premise that, like, you know, you're in charge here. It isn't just like you're going to, you know, open up this board and things are flying out of it. I mean, I would probably think it's cool, but I don't think many people would. I don't think many people would like that. But I do
It would
think
make a really good movie though, like a version of Jumanji where you like open it up and like shit goes wild. It's like all
right.
your ancestors fly in.
See, now my
Yeah.
brain's all up thinking about that. I'm like, wow.
I feel like we might get more supporters to the Kickstarter if we actually promised that that would happen.
Yeah.
People don't know what they
On
need.
the other end, then they're gonna get mad when it doesn't, or they're gonna get mad when it does. So
Right.
somebody somewhere is just gonna be like,
Yeah. If we reach a certain stretch goal, if we reach $50,000, all of your ancestors will fly through the board.
yeah, just like Ghostbusters, like when it flies out of the little trap thing. Just
listen, we cannot get off here without me saying something about the expansion packs.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's hear about it.
Expansion packs. And it's because I go brain dead on this. Stacey, are these your add-ons, correct?
Yeah. You can add them on, but if you sign up at the super deluxe WoW level, which is called the Witches pack, then it already comes. It's just like, here's everything we have packaged up for you. We do have that tier. You should always do that. But other people can go a la carte and they can choose to have these 2 expansion packs.
Yeah. So one is 10 more acts of magic. So that's totally, if you really want to do more magic, that's it for you. The other spirit expansion pack are 10 called the Witches, and it's 10 types of witchcraft. It's so cool. And Stacey and I have both been showing sample cards from the Witches expansion pack. They are so cool. What a great idea. I love.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So what are some of the other add-ons?
There's runes, which I mentioned, so people can just add that as an a la carte. And that's not something we made, just in all honesty, but I'm just trying to make it easy for people to support and give us the money we need to manufacture this product. So that was, sometimes add-ons are just because we need extra help, but also because we think it'll be valuable to you. So the runes are definitely an add-on. The Acts of Magic, 10 more, is an add-on, and the Witches are an add-on. And another thing is a leather journal. I'm such a journaler. I mean, I got into all of this because I'm the family genealogist. So I have like all of the records and so on. So I've been journaling on that anyway. And I had said to Nancy, I'd love to design a journal that actually has prompts in there. It's not just blank pages. It's got prompts in there that are based on, oh, good. Caroline got the journal. Good job. But it'll have prompts and spread ideas from Nancy's book. And that way you'll have, these prompts that'll say, okay, here you can have pages where it's like half blank and half writing. So you can draw the 3 cards that you drew and then write. So yeah, I'm excited about the journal on a personal level. I can't wait to make it.
Yeah. No, I'm a journal person too. I love my journals, but then I write them right. I forget which ones I write what in. I have to like organize that better, but
oh yeah,
it's just kind of my brain works, but I do love them. I always have one with me. I always have at least one with me wherever I am. So
yeah, exactly.
I am so glad, Stacey, you said it's not a blank book. In fact, Stacey sent out an update to our backers saying, give us our feedback. Give us feedback. And we got so many emails about, I want this in a journal. I want this. I want lines. I don't want lines.
Yeah.
I want my family tree. I mean, it was great. So now you have something to really design that people.
I'm literally going to design the journal like that, like those emails are a checklist. I wouldn't do that with every creative project, but journals are supposed to have a lot of different fun activities in them. It's gonna be like an activity book.
It is, right? It's like Ancestor Magick activity book. Well, exactly, because some people, they kind of get so stuck on what they're doing and they like it this way and they journal this way and that's it. But at least now this will kind of give you a little taste. Like maybe you never tried it this way and you do it and it works really well for you and you never know. So, I mean.
And then you could photocopy that page over and over again and have even more, if you wanted to do it that way. No, I've done that with journals. They'll give you 5, but I want to have 50. So.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm forever doing that. Like I'm always like trying to, even if I have to like scan it on my phone just to save it so that I can like do it next time. But yeah, no, I love that. And I love that it's a leather one because I don't know, there's just something about leather journals. I
want it to be something that people consider savable. Like I think it would be nice, especially if you're the family genealogist, to have a notebook that you did all these notes in and leave for your future generations, so that when you're an ancestor, people can find this 100 years from now and be like, she used to do this too.
Right.
I mean, that really gives me chills thinking about that.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I think that's such a great idea. And, as you're going through all this too, I mean, no matter what, even, you pulling a card and whatever, there's going to be some sort of revelation, some sort of connection. And I think it's really important to document it, because I think a lot of people don't write this stuff down, and, we forget so easy. And so, one of the really cool things to do that I like to do is, even as I was working through Nancy's Ancestral Tarot book, I'm writing it down, and then, and then you do it again, and it's probably somebody different or whatever, but it's cool to kind of compare and see just how you've changed even throughout that process, and how much more insightful you might be. So I think that that's just definitely one of those things that people, I think it's important to do, especially when you're doing any of this ancestral work, is to write it down, because, and there's also too, like, the repeating messages. Like, you may write something or journal something and then do it again, and then write the same thing and not even realize it. And if you didn't write it down, you probably wouldn't even know. And so then there's like some sort of pattern there, and I think that's a really cool thing too, for sure. So is there anything else you guys would like to share about these this kit before? And I think 16, 17 days left. Is that where we're at now?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
16. So 16.
There's still time. And we have a stretch goal stretch goals are different. So those of you who aren't Kickstarter people, stretch goals are different than add-ons. An add-on is just like shopping. It's like, you can add this other thing and then add to your order kind of thing. It's not really an order, but add to your pledge. I want this and this and this. But the stretch goals are, hey, go tell your friends, because we're really trying to, it's like any fundraiser. We're trying to hit that 30,000 mark. We're trying to hit the 50,000 mark, whatever. And one of the stretch goals is, we thought it would be really cool to make the box itself part of the kit, make it part of the magic, instead of just being pretty. So we're hoping that we can print on the inside of the box, because if we can raise $30,000, we can print on the inside of the boxes. And that way the box lid, the inner box lid, could actually be a mini pendulum board itself.
Oh,
and
fun.
I'm really stoked on this idea. So you guys got to support our Kickstarter so we can make that happen.
Make that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
definitely. That's awesome.
I have absolutely nothing to add about the Kickstarter add-ons, because Stacey covered everything. But I think, Stacey, we should draw a card for everybody. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I'm always down for that.
Okay. You want to draw spirit or magic? Which one do you want to draw?
Magic.
You draw. Go ahead.
Okay. Wait, I have to cut the deck.
Okay.
This is for everybody.
Okay.
Oh, crystals.
Okay.
Ooh.
It's a crystal magic kind of day, you guys.
Yay.
That's the card I drew for myself this morning, Stacey.
Oh, really?
And I drew for everybody the creator, which is Stacey, on that.
Yay!
So, we all create in different ways, and creativity does not have to be the artist or the writer at all. It can be creative in how you make your house look, how you talk to ghosts. Think about how can you be creative in your day today.
I love it. Love it. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, Nancy, why don't you tell us where we can find you on the interwebs?
Oh, you're the best. I hang out on Instagram all the time, Nancy Sage Shadow, but I'm also on Facebook, just Nancy Hendrickson. Come find me. I tend to repost there what I'm posting on Instagram. So if you miss me on one place, you'll find me the other.
Perfect. How about you, Stacey?
Well, I'd love for people to come follow La Panther Studio, which is, it's La, L-A, and then Panther with an E at the end, Studio, on Instagram. There aren't a lot of followers there yet because we're new, but I'm telling you, we've got some beautiful things coming out. I've got all kinds of artists approaching me saying they want to do like Nancy and publish with me. It doesn't mean I'm the illustrator. We have other illustrators. I'm working with Erica Pebas right now, who's amazing, on another deck that you're going to be hearing tons about very soon. So I'm just going to be zip about it right now because I'm going to be so annoying in about 2 months. So we just have a lot of beautiful things coming up, and I want people to go look at that.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm so excited to get the kit, and I will also make sure to tag all of your socials and info. And you know, and if anybody, you know, if you haven't grabbed this, you don't have a lot of time left, so definitely head over to Kickstarter. I know you can probably find all the information on Nancy and Stacey's stuff too, and I always try to share it when I see it pop up. So definitely make sure and go and support. And you definitely want this. You want to check this out for sure. Well, thank you
Thank
for
you, Jen.
hanging out. All right. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
I'll see you in July.